If you want to learn how to simplify algebraic fractions, then stick with me in this channel as I shall be showing to you two methods we can use to simplify algebraic fractions the easy way. My name is Justice Johnson. You are welcome to Maths Fusions. This is the channel where you learn maths the easy way. It is also the channel where we solve maths problems that cuts across all other fields of study. If you are new to this channel, I would like to encourage you to click this subscription button, click on it and help me to build this channel so that I can be able to reach out to many people who had challenges in mathematics. Now, let us get into the lesson of today. Like as I said before, we are going to be looking at how to simplify algebraic fractions, and this is the part 2 of this lesson. If you have not watched the part 1 of this lesson, I'm going to be leaving a link on the description of this video. At the bottom of the description of this video, you can go in there, click on it and see the first part of this lesson, or you can check the card that will be displayed in the upper right hand corner of this video, and it will direct you to that video where you will also learn how to simplify algebraic fractions. Now for today, let us consider this first example displayed on the screen. Here says x plus 3 upon 2x plus 6. How are we going to simplify this? Check this first, the number at the top here, x plus 3. You realize that in this case there is no common factors between x plus 3 except 1. Okay, so the method I'm going to be using here to simplify this is the h.c.f method. And how do we use the h.c.f method? Let's get started. We roll our line here, and then since there is no common factor, you see this is a letter x and this is number 3, there is no common factor between the two of them except 1. So I'm going to write out the 1, which may not be necessary, okay, but let me put it out here. So we say 1 into bracket x plus 3. Whenever we use the h.c.f to factorize a particular term, we must introduce a bracket, okay, and this bracket means that whatsoever we have outside the bracket, if we multiply it into the bracket, is going to give us exactly the value that we have here. Now let's get down to the denominator. Here we can see that we have 2x and we also have what, 6. So all we have to do is to look for the h.c.f of 2x and 6. Okay, now let me just quickly do that here for those of you that may not have the foundational knowledge. So here we have 2x, we can multiply them out, 2 times x. Then we also have 6, which we can multiply as 2 times 3. You will see that 2 is common here. Okay, so the h.c.f therefore is what, is 2. Now what do we do with that 2? We come here, we write it, and we open a bracket. Now we can get the content of this bracket by using the 2 to divide each terms. So if we divide 2x, look at it, if we divide 2x by 2, 2 we cancel 2, we'll be left with what, x. We write out the x here, x. Then this is plus, do the same thing, divide our 6 by 2, and 2 we divide 6, and that will give us 3. We write out 3. So at this point now you can see that we have x plus 3 at the top and x plus 3 at the bottom. They are the same terms, okay? So which means we can cancel them out, and then finally we will be left with what, 1 upon 2 as the answer. Quite easy, isn't it? Okay, now let's move on to the example 2. Now in example 2, we're having the same thing, okay? But let's take a look at the top number here. We have ax plus bx, okay? And the bottom number, we are just only having x. Now back to the top number. The first term has x. The second term has x. The next we'll look at is the power of the x. In the first term, the power of the x is 1. In the second term, the power of the x is 1. So since x is common for both terms, we are going to bring the x out and introduce our bracket, okay? And then we can now come in here to divide this first term, ax power 1, we'll divide it by the h.c.f x, okay? And from our first lesson, I've told us how to simplify things like this. We can subtract the powers, 1 minus 1, and that will give us, so what we are going to have here now is a. Alright, so ax has been ax plus bx. The first time now when we factorize that our x will give us what? A. So here we put the next sign, which is plus, and then we do the same thing. If you divide this x into bx, the x will cancel the x, it will be left with what? With b. Then we can roll our line this way, and then the denominator and the bottom comes in there. So what we can do here now is that we observe we have an x at the top, we have an x at the bottom, just like what we did before. Okay, this x at the top will cancel the x at the bottom to give us the final answer as a plus b. Alright, so let's move on to the third example. In this third example, it's going to be a little bit complicated compared to what we did before. So we'll write our equals to and we'll rule our line. Now over here we are having 4x squared, and then we're having what? 2xy. We are going to write out these two terms, 4x squared as product of its prime. So here we have 2 times 2 times x. Since the x is squared there, I multiply it out twice. Okay, then we have 2xy, which is 2 multiplied by x multiplied by y. So the h.c.f. in this case will become, since we are having a 2 here, we are going to write it out 2 times, then we are having x, which is common for both numbers. We are going to write out the word, the x. So eventually we have 2x as the common factor. So we come in here, we write out our 2x, we open the bracket, and we divide. 4x squared divided by 2x. The 2 will cancel the 4 to give us 2. Then the x squared will cancel the x to give us x. Please, if you are just joining us now, I've shown us already how to solve this in the first lesson, so you can make reference to the first lesson once you are through watching this for a better understanding. Now we come here, we'll write out our plus, and then what comes in here, the 2 will cancel the 2, the x will cancel the x, will be left with what? Will be left with y. Okay, so at the denominator we have x plus what? X plus 2. Okay, we can write it this way. Now in this case you can see that there is no common terms. There is no common terms between the top number and the bottom number, so you can leave your answer this way. Quite easy, isn't it? Now I'm sure you are understanding the concepts that have been taught so far. Now let's quickly take the fourth example. Now in the fourth example here, we are given something slightly different from the first 3 examples we just dealt with. In this example here, we have x plus 3, then x minus 2. Both numbers are multiplying it into each other. That's the reason why you see the bracket. Then at the denominator, we have in x squared minus 2x. So how do we approach this question? Here is how we'll go about it. First, there's nothing we can do here other than to write the number the way it is given to us. So we say x plus 3, then x minus 2. Okay, then we rule our line. Now at the denominator here, what we have to do is to factorize these terms using the h.c.f. method. Now that method entails, if you check what you have here, x squared, the second term has an x, but the power is what? 1. So to factorize this using the h.c.f. method, we are simply going to bring out the lesser power of x, which in this case we'll write it out x. Then we introduce our bracket and we divide. X squared divided by x, by now you should know what I'm doing. So the x will cancel the x squared. How? Look at it here. We write our x squared divided by x power 1. From our previous lesson, all we have to do is to subtract 1 here and subtract 1 here, so that at the top we are going to have x, then at the bottom we are going to have x power 0, and x power 0 is equals to 1. So which means we'll just take our x here, and that's the value you see I've written out here. Okay, so if you divide by 2, you are going to have what? X. Then minus, if you divide 2x by x, you are going to have 2. So if you observe again, there is a x minus 2 at the top, and there is a x minus 2 at the bottom. So both numbers or both terms will have to cancel out each other, and then in the next step you'll be left with what? X plus 3, then all divided by x. So this is the answer to the fourth question. Now let's move on to the fifth question. In the fifth question here, you can see we have x cubed minus 4x all divided by x plus 2. So how do we solve this problem? Here's how we go about it. Like we did in example 4, since the lesser power of x is x power 1, okay, that means we are going to bring the x power 1 out, then introduce a bracket, and then we'll rule our line here and write out the denominator before coming back to simplify what we have at the numerator. Okay, so now you already know what I'm doing. Okay, so all we simply do here is to divide s cubed by x. And how do we get it? Look at it. S cubed divided by x. The x there has power 1, so if you subtract 1 in order to make the power there to be 0, you must also subtract 1 here, and you have x squared. Why this one will become x power 0, which is equals to what? 1. So we have x squared as a result. We put it in here, x squared. Then here we have minus 4. Now don't just celebrate yet, because you are not yet done with this work. Okay, because if you check what we have here, we have x power what? 4. X power 2 minus 4. Okay, now this x power 2 minus 4 can still be written in another form, in what we call the difference of two squares. Now that is another method I'll be using to factorize here the difference of two squares. Okay, now what does that mean? It means that you must have two squares, that is two perfect squares. X power 2 is a perfect square. A perfect square is any number that has an even power. So if I say x power 2, x power 4, x power 6, and so on, these are all perfect squares. Okay, they are all perfect squares. So which means this 4 that is here is a perfect square. All right, but how can I write it in its square form? This is how we are going to do it now. We come here, we say x into bracket x squared, then we have minus, we can break this down toward 2 squared. Since 4 is an even number and the lowest possible even number is 2, that's why we started with 2. So 2 will multiply itself, 2 times 2 to give us 4, and that's why we're replacing the 4 by 2 squared. All right, so here we have x plus 2. Now in the final step here, we are going to have x into bracket. This is where we are going to expand these two numbers into the difference of two squares. By difference of two squares, what we mean is that first we take our x, then plus 2, then we open the bracket and write it as x minus 2. In other words, we're writing these two numbers again in this form, where the first one will be x plus 2 and the next one will be what? X minus 2. Then we can divide this by the denominator x plus 2. And finally, you can see that the x plus 2 here will cancel the x plus 2, so you'll be left with x into bracket what? X minus 2, and that will be the final answer to this question. I believe understanding the concept taught here, and let us quickly dive into the final example for this lesson. Now in the final example here, we have in x squared minus 255 divided by 10x plus what? 50. Now how do we solve this problem? Like how we did in example 5. If you check this number 25, okay, we have to ask ourselves, can we write it as perfect square? That is, we must write it in such a way that it will write a number here that will have a square. Okay, now 25 belongs to the class of odd numbers. And what are the possible odd numbers? We have in 3, we have in 5, we have in 7, we have in 9, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's take 3 first. 3 times 3 will give us 9. We are looking for 25, so 3 times 3 cannot give us 25. Okay, so we'll move to the next number, which is what? Is 5. So 5 times 5, which is 5 squared, will give us what? 25. So which means in the next step here, we are going to write our x squared minus, this is 25, we are writing it as 5 squared, then divide by 10x plus 50. Now I'm going to be treating this method fully under factorization, okay? So but I just have to introduce it here, and when we start up that lesson, please, I want you to be part of it. So stay tuned in this channel. Now from what we have here, okay, we have in x squared minus 5 squared. for like what we did in example 5, okay? Since there's a negative sign between the two squares, all we have to do is to introduce a bracket, write the first number x, plus, write the second number 5. Then we repeat the same thing, but this time around with a negative sign. Then we divide by what? If you look at what we have here, we have 10x plus 50. Using the method of h.c.f, you can see that the common factors, the highest common factor between 10 and 50 is what? Is 10. And if you divide 10x by 10, you are going to have x. Then plus divide 50 by 10, you are going to have what? 5. Right? So for the next, this our x plus 5, we cancel x plus 5 that is the top here. So finally, we are going to have the final answer as x minus 5 divided by what? 10. And this is going to be the answer for the final question. I'm sure you enjoyed this lesson. I just want to say here before we go that maybe you have another method, another way you think we can solve this. I will like to hear from you in the comment box to let me know what other way we can use to solve problems, to simplify algebraic fractions like these various examples that we have just treated. Now please, if you have not subscribed, I will encourage you to subscribe to this channel. You can also click the notification bell to get notified each time we released a video. Stay with me in this channel. We are still going to continue on how to simplify algebraic fractions, and there are many more complicated questions we are going to be treating.